There's a difference between being boastful for the betterment of who I am and the diminishment of who you are. If it's feeding your ego, then it's actually coming to your detriment as well. But when you are stating a skill or a gift or an area in business that you really thrive in, that you want to share, that's your gift to bring to the marketplace. Your clients, they desperately need that from you. If you're shy to even say, this is one of my specialties, how are they ever going to find you? So we have to own this gift that we have to the degree that we're capable of to bring it to the market and say, look, this is the space I occupy in this world, and I would love to work with you on this particular thing. It's one of my gifts.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing, and you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz Podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's great to be back with another episode. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Ciel Ellis, who's a coach, a writer, a trainer, and an artist. She's the founder of the Ellis Institute, who work with service-based entrepreneurs to help them build the life they love. In our discussion, Ciel talked to me about how she uses journaling to build self-awareness, to get in touch with her intuition, and to clear limiting beliefs. We talked about being 100% in. In other words, removing the anticipation of disappointment and allowing you to focus 100% on achieving a successful outcome. And Ciel shared with us some powerful personal stories that demonstrated how she lives her why. Without further ado then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Ciel Ellis. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from White Rock in British Columbia in Canada, Ciel Ellis, who's a coach, a writer, a trainer, and a painter or an artist. So she's the founder of the Ellis Institute, who work with service-based entrepreneurs to help them build the life they love. So welcome to the podcast, Ciel. It's a privilege to have you as a guest.
Thank you, Jürgen. What a pleasure to be here.
Carol Metz-Murray, who was our guest on episode 133 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested we interview Ciel and introduced us. So a big hello to Carol. Now, Ciel, you talk a lot in your intro video about leading, liberating and illuminating the lives of extraordinary women. So I think that's what Carol suggested we speak to you about. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that in some more detail. Before we do that, though, let's find out a little bit more about your background. As a young child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Sure. My childhood, the first 25 years of my life were spent in a lot of trauma. And unfortunately, we had a number of deaths. There were 11 close friends or family that were killed by the time I was 22. And I was given up for adoption at birth. And that isn't really an issue for an infant because they don't know the difference until a sibling, when I was a few years old, mentioned that you don't actually belong here. So there was a lot of identity, uncertainty, a lot of foundational things that most children grow up with that I felt really shaky with. And the result was that I ended up, by the time I was 15, of being sexually molested for 10 years of my life. So that was the way, the uncertainty sort of manifested in my life, which helped to just pile on the amount of trauma and things for me to sort through. And what I realized as a young adult is that I was quite angry. And I felt entitled, and I wanted a life different than the one that I was living. I saw people around me who appeared to be happy. And I set out on a course to figure out what that meant for me, what it was going to take for me to also be happy with the life that I'm living. And the journey began with a process of personal writing, of journaling. Now, I've been journaling for 25 years, and I've kept all my journals. I have volumes and volumes and volumes. And what the key outcome of all that writing was that I came back to myself. I came back to this magnificent person that lived a bunch of difficult things, but that magnificence never really changed. It was just my idea of who I was because of the events of my life that had me forget, right? That there was this beautiful, deep, loving, passionate woman masked by all of the life experience. And I knew that because of what I had lived through, I had this belief that I was not locked in to living the rest of my life with what I had learned as a child. So it meant unlearning some of those habits and those beliefs and ways that I functioned in the world that weren't serving me. And what was the most reliable source was through that writing practice.
Right?
Oh, what do I think and believe about this situation? Why is this so uncomfortable for me? Where is my joy? Oh my God, there it is. I am excited about this, or this, right? So that was...
That's pretty inspirational. Now, I'm interested, was it simply the act of journaling that got you to the point of realizing that, because being angry, I mean, you're entitled to be angry. You're entitled to be really angry.
Yeah.
But getting to the realization that at some point that anger wasn't serving you anymore. Was that the journaling that kind of brought that out?
It was more out of a really dire need that I had. I was immersed in a very intensive goldsmith training program. I had an apprenticeship with a German master goldsmith. And within a few years, it was a 4-year apprenticeship, I realized that the stress and the tension and the demand on me being an apprentice to a precision master was that the anxiety, the depression, the uncertainty, the fear in me was all too exercised, if you know what I mean by that. I was living in those realms almost constantly. And I knew that my nervous system, my well-being couldn't sustain what I was currently a part of. So I either leave the apprenticeship, which was not really an option, or I find some other way to cope. And so the journaling came as a gift, really. I stumbled on it in a magazine that I picked up and really thought, what have I got to lose? So it was really out of a dire need and an awareness that I cannot continue doing what I'm doing. I have to figure this out.
And so you're still journaling today?
I am, yes. And I'm teaching other women about this practice of personal writing as a tool for them to gain a deeper perspective on their life. What I find women do is they're very masterful at creating homes and families and careers, but they often leave themselves behind due to obligation, due to the roles that they've crafted for themselves. And it's not necessary. And it's not necessary to completely change the life that you're living. There is a way to change how you're living it. So you don't need to leave the job or the husband or the house or the kids or any of that. It's just how we live that same life can be so subtly different and enriching where previously it wasn't.
Now, in some of the material that I read about you, you talk quite a lot about getting in touch with ourselves and I guess around building self-awareness. And obviously you've mastered that very well through the journaling. So what are some of the key steps there? I guess journaling is the foundation of that, but what are some of the key steps there with if somebody says, okay, I've got some problems, I want to figure out how to deal with those myself. How do I get in touch more with myself? How do I become more self-aware in terms of what is it that I can do to change something that will get a different outcome?
I think the key is to isolate one thing that is causing you difficulty. And that could be communication, it could be relationship, it could be just a self-belief system that you hear yourself saying negative things about your work performance, your ability to communicate, your body shape, whatever it might be. Choose one thing that is currently causing you distress. And then take that one thing and become really present to what that thing is. So one of the tools that I share with my community is if it's a negative self-belief that just won't leave you alone, I encourage people in their journal to give it voice, which means keep asking it for the next negative thing that it wants to tell you. You're too stupid. You're too fat. You don't have the right education. You don't have the right marriage. You don't have the right money. You don't have the... What else? What else? What else? And don't take any of it personally because it's not really about you. It's more about our ego trying to keep us in place. When we give voice to this negative side of ourselves and we keep asking, what else do you want to say about me? Very soon, it's exhausted. There's nothing more that it has to say negative about you, which creates a void. And as we all know, the universe abhors a void. So we can fill that void with something else. Oh my, I am so proud that you have the courage to keep diving into this negative self-talk, right? That can be the positive affirmation that comes out of it. You have so much courage. That in itself is a foundation that you can now stand on. It's solid ground. So when the negative voice comes up again, you can remind yourself, no, I actually have courage because I've done this. I've faced all these negative ideas and I've come to a place of knowing that I have courage. What would you build from that courageous place? What would you have the courage to believe if you didn't allow the negativity to run over you?
Yeah, I love that. It's so simple, but it does require a lot of discipline, I guess, to keep that going. But one of the things that I thought of, if in that void there's another negative thought comes up, you can almost rejoice because, oh, there's another one to add to the list, and you kind of treat it as a bit of a game and laugh at yourself. You don't take it too seriously.
And don't take it personally because it isn't actually the truth. Even though we tend to believe it, it's a bit of a lazy self-identity. Oh, there's that negativity. I better stop. No. That is not the truth of who you are. That's just the ego and the lizard brain trying to keep you solidly in place versus changing and having a new perspective of your magnificence or how smart you are or how capable you are. That feels threatening to our ego.
And I guess we're all brought up to not blow our own trumpets, to use a term. I don't know if that's just an Australian term, but to talk about, hey, I'm good at this, or I'm an expert at something else. That's just not something that we're brought up and encouraged to do.
That's right.
We're almost encouraged to be self-deprecating.
That's right. And here's the myth of all of that. In Canada, we say something like, don't be too big for your britches. Well, they're not actually talking about your pants. They're talking about don't be boastful. Don't brag. For God's sakes, don't tell people what you're good at. That's the underlying message of don't be too big for your britches. And the fact is, we came to this life experience with a set of gifts and a set of skills. Who tells us we are not supposed to share that?
That's a really good point. I talk a lot in the marketing sense and the sales sense, where people say, that comes across as salesy, and I don't want to do that in salesy. Right. And my argument always is, well, you're the expert at X, and there are people out there that need X, and they need you because you're the best fit for them. So are you not doing them a disservice by not selling or not marketing? So
there's a difference between being boastful for the betterment of who I am and the diminishment of who you are.
Yeah. And,
right?
And simply to feed your ego, right?
That's right. If it's feeding your ego, then it's actually coming to your detriment as well. But when you are stating a skill or a gift or an area in business that you really thrive in, that you want to share, that's your gift to bring to the marketplace. Your clients, they desperately need that from you. If you're shy to even say, this is one of my specialties, how are they ever going to find you?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Right? So we have to own this gift that we have to the degree that we're capable of, to bring it to the market and say, look, this is the space I occupy in this world, and I would love to work with you on this particular thing. It's one of my gifts.
That's great advice, really great advice. So in one of the other things that I saw you talking about was, and you used the expression being 100% in.
Yes.
And you talked about removing the anticipation of disappointment. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I'm fascinated. It's kind of, we set ourselves up sometimes with the expectation that we fail, even if we're not conscious of that. And
that's right.
I think that's probably what you're talking about there.
So when you were growing up, did your mom or your grandmom or anyone say, don't put all your eggs in one basket?
Yeah.
Right? That's what this 100% in piece is all about. Why not put all your eggs in the same basket? So the idea is that you have a moonshot goal, or you have an idea of who you want to be in the world. Maybe that's around income or your business or your personal life. And you set a goal. You really want to achieve that goal. But in the back of our mind, we don't want to put all of our eggs in the same basket. So we reserve a little bit of our energy and our intention for that disappointment. I don't want to get my hopes up, because what if it doesn't happen? The reality is the thing is not in your life currently. What the goal that you've set is not currently here. So if it doesn't happen, you really haven't lost anything. Right? You'll be exactly where you are now. Let's just imagine that you put 100% of your intention, of your imagination, of your dreams, of your already living that experience in your mind. What could be possible if you put 100% of that energy into the thing that you want to achieve? I guarantee you're going to get closer to achieving the thing you set out to. And along the way, you may course correct and recognize that there's something even better that you hadn't seen from, the viewpoint that you had when you first set the goal.
Yeah, that's a really great way of looking at it. And to me, that sounds a little bit like an intense focus, but it's actually working at the unconscious level, isn't it?
Yes, and there's a lightness, right? Because there's a way we can hold our goals being 100% in, but still being flexible to how they show up. Not being so rigidly focused that it has to be blue and it has to be this size and it has to be, has to arrive on Monday.
That's right.
What if we're a little more flexible with it?
And if you're clear on what the end is that you have in mind that you want to achieve, then some of those details may change along the way, because you're still focused on achieving a particular outcome.
That's right. I had an interesting circumstance in my own personal life. I had a money goal in my business, and I got a third of the way into achieving my money goal, and I got scared.
Mhm.
So I changed the money goal. And then a little bit farther down the road, I changed the money goal again. And of course, I didn't achieve the goal that I had originally set out to. So in my journal, I started writing about it. Like, what happened? I was all in. I was doing all the work. And what came to me in my writing is you kept changing your mind. So we didn't know exactly what to bring you.
We weren't sure what we were going for. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So make up your mind and just stay the course because, magic will happen, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, one of the other things I read somewhere in one of your blogs or somewhere that, we're all powerful beyond measure. And I can't remember who said this, but it was something along the lines of our greatest fear is not that we're a failure. Our greatest fear is that we succeed beyond our wildest imagination and that we actually have the power to do that. So,
yeah, that's Marianne Williamson. There's quite a lengthy poem, and that's the opening few lines from that. And I really believe that's true. I don't think that our negativity or our limitation is really what holds us back. I think it's the fear of our greatness. Who are we to be that person that we imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I know, you talked earlier about the jewellery apprenticeship that you did, and I know that you still do quite a bit of jewellery and textiles, and of course you've talked about the journals and some other artwork. So how important is all of that? I mean, we've heard about the journaling, but how important is the other artwork to what you do and to your creativity?
It's really a conversation with my bliss and with my intuition. So we as humans, we are always creative. We're always creating something. And for me, my creativity shows up in tangible products, tangible textiles and journals and that kind of thing. I believe that we all have a creative skill within us, but do we all practice it? And if we are not practicing a form of creativity, we're actually leaving a very large portion of our personality untouched, which to me is a crime because we need all of ourselves to interpret the world that we're living. So in my creative pursuits, that's all intuition. Intuition is what guides me to the color palette, the structure, the size, the combination of how things come together. It's all part and parcel of my life experience as an artist. As a goldsmith, I learned from the master how to build things from scratch. So I have a very technical three-dimensional mind, and I apply that to other systems, such as the structure of the journals that I build. When something isn't working properly, I use that mechanical three-dimensional mind to sort out where's the problem? Why is this not, opening to its full extent? I also hand-built a tabletop loom for myself for my weaving craft. And, there's lots of technical details to figure out, but that's, for me, the point of creation. I know I can complete this project. So every problem that arises, I use that innovation and that ability to connect to my intuition to help me sort that through. Now, does that help me in my coaching practice? You bet it does. Because I've got an ability to connect to my intuition because I've practiced it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. And also it gives you some balance there. I love the way that you, there's a lot of really unique things there. I mean, artworks tend to be quite unique because they're very personal. Somebody's developed them, but then taking it to the next level, building your own loom to weave on and so on. I love that. Yeah.
There really is nothing that I can't do. And for me, that's a bold frontier because a lot of people stop themselves before they allow their imagination to run off with them. There is a place of fear that, I couldn't possibly imagine doing that. And I've learned through my own experience. I set out on a journey in 2009 to ride my motorcycle by myself, 5,000 kilometers from Vancouver, British Columbia to San Francisco and back. And it was the most remarkable trip I have ever been on because all I had to rely on was myself.
Yeah.
Right? People think, oh, what a frightening thing to do. But they don't realize that I had put months and months and months of preparation into packing properly so that when I did set out on this big journey, I was prepared. I had the repair manual, a set of tools. I had the roadmap. I had the GPS. I knew where I was going. There was a lot of elements that I put into place so that I mitigated the risk and the fear and the uncertainty. So this big trip was just now a matter of waking up every morning and experiencing the pure joy of riding down the Oregon coast on my motorcycle in the surf and the sand and the sun and the wind. I mean, it was just phenomenal. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, sounds amazing. I'm sort of tempted to look at that as well. I guess something like that also does test your resourcefulness, though, because I imagine there would have been experiences that you hadn't planned for or you couldn't plan for, and then all of a sudden you had to suddenly be resourceful to deal with whatever it was that came up.
You had to figure it out as you go. And I knew that I had all the tools to do that, right?
Yeah.
I had everything I needed. The other remarkable thing that happened, and I'll tell you a little bit about Scott. Now, one early morning, I left Santa Rosa, California, and I rode my motorbike. I'd left it, 5:30, 6 in the morning. It was a beautiful time. The mist was just coming off the vineyards, as the sun was coming up. It was gorgeous. And I pulled into a cafe to have breakfast. And before long, a homeless man came in with his wash bucket and his squeegee. And he asked the owner, could I clean your windows in exchange for breakfast? And the owner flatly refused and said, no, man, I can't feed all of you. I guess the bus depot was just around the corner, and he had this fairly frequently. I overheard the conversation and I said, oh, it's no problem. I will pay for his breakfast. And I looked at the homeless man and I said, just sit down and order anything you like. I'll pick up the bill. He sat down, he had his breakfast, but you could tell he was leery. He didn't quite trust why this single woman was buying him breakfast. And he kept looking over at me and sort of questioning, why would you do this? And he finally, after he finished his breakfast, he came over and he said, this is the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me. And I then spent 10 minutes coaching Scott about his life and his, what his hopes and dreams were. And he left, and I went up to pay my bill and pay the breakfast for Scott. And the owner said, what you've done here today is remarkable, and I will never forget it. I walked out to my beautiful motorcycle. I'm getting emotional. And I just cried. I cried at the woman that I had become because of this journey, because of taking the risk, preparing myself and being open to the journey, open to the experience, open to share my gifts without remuneration from Scott, but just to openly share what I had to share. And it was just an amazing experience. I don't know whatever came of Scott or the owner, but I knew that in that moment, I had influenced two people's lives in a positive way. That's part of what that motorcycle trip did for me.
That's a wonderful story. I was just wondering, even before you started telling that part of the story, I was wondering, is there a book in all of this? Is there a book in that journey? Is there a book in your journaling and how you turned your life around?
There's actually 3 books. So the first book that I wrote is called Clarity Quest, Discover Exactly Who You Are. Now, that is a book that's already been published. It is readily available. When I launched it, there were 572 copies downloaded in 11 countries around the world. So that was the first book. The second book is called Ink About It. Now, Ink About It is this journey through writing, how to use personal writing as a tool to improve your life, improve your health, improve your outlook on what your business could do for the world. And the third book is called Woman in the Wind, and that is my journey on this motorcycle trip and my meeting Scott and the various things that came up along that way. So those two books are in the works and due to publish next year.
All right. Well, we'll get a link from you for the Clarity Quest book to add to the podcast, because I didn't come across that actually in my research. It's not really good, but anyway, we'll follow up on that and we'll keep track on the Think About It and Woman in the Wind when those are published.
Sounds great.
All right. So in terms of your own business, what's the biggest challenge in your business right now, and what are you doing about it?
Well, it's interesting. The biggest challenge is, as you can tell from the stories that I've shared with you, I have a very deep, compassionate heart. And one of the challenges that I have is expressing that gift in amongst the marketing, the sales, the getting clients, the offering programs. The two get a little bit muddy. And so the challenge that I have at the moment is remaining in that really tender heart space and conveying that message to potential clients who, are attracted to work with me and not get tangled in all the business marketing and the way that you communicate what you do. It can be a bit sterile sometimes, and I really want the love to come through.
Well, it's definitely coming through in the interview today.
Good. That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been really fabulous. I sort of love the stories. I love what you've shared with us today. But I think it's time we moved on to our innovation round. We call it the Buzz, which is designed to help our audience, and they're primarily innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So we've got 5 questions, and hopefully you'll give us some really insightful answers that inspire the audience to go and do something awesome today.
Great.
So what's the number one thing you think anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Get in touch with your intuition. Figure out what it is you know and what you understand about this life that you're living. That is going to be the foundation of how you're able to innovate in whatever industry you're in.
Yeah, great advice. And one way to do that is journaling, right?
It's journaling, it's meditating, it's walking in nature, it's yoga, it's talking to a friend, just feeling what that gut instinct is trying to tell you, trying to bring to your awareness. That is something unique that you bring, that you were born with that, right? So learning to trust that inner voice that's guiding you.
Great. So what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
I've gotten out of my own way and allowed my intuition to guide me. When my intuition says, go and build. So I'm working on a yearly calendar for next year, and my intuition's already telling me it needs to be larger format. It needs to have this type of lettering. It needs to have this cover. I just follow that inspiration and allow it to come to life in the way that it's meant to. So getting out of my own way and allowing the ideas to flow.
All right, and that's really great advice. I've got a feeling I know the answer to this next one. What's your favorite tool for improving your productivity and allowing you to be more innovative?
It's really about simplification. Simplifying to the core elements of what has you be well. We are susceptible to becoming very busy in our lives with all of the different structures, particularly online business managers work with, that we can lose sight of what in the simplification of our life is necessary for us to be well, for us to bring our work into the world, because all of the busyness is not going to amount to what you intend. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, that's great advice. And we do tend to accumulate a lot of clutter in our lives and tend to kind of put up a lot of things that end up taking time and taking our attention away from the things that matter, right?
Yeah. I had a really great tip given to me recently, and that is to call your credit card company and change the physical number of your credit card. So all of those automated programs that you've purchased online at some point that you've completely lost track of.
Yeah.
When they go to renew, you'll get the notice that the credit card won't go through. And then you get to reevaluate. Do I actually need that Scrabble game that's, $30 a year? Probably not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I as a rule, I try to avoid annual renew or automatic renewals if I can, for that very reason, so that
and sometimes
when it's up,
sometimes we lose track of it because there isn't another option.
Yeah.
Right. So it's staying on top of those things.
All right, great advice. So, what's the best way to keep a client on track?
Clients, I really love helping them determine what it is that they want, because as a coach, it's not about me defining what I imagine for their life. It's about them embodying what they imagine. And then really checking in with the client. Hey, client, you said that you really wanted this. You were going to get to the gym last week. What went sideways that you didn't follow through with that? Right? Because these are the very places that we leave ourselves behind. We know what's good for us, but we neglect and forget about those things. Why? What had you forget? What's the thing that became more important? That's what we need to look at, because that's the very same thing that's going to continue to derail you when there's something that you want.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I like then checking in, asking why and what became more important. Because I think fundamentally, if a client identifies, here's what's important, here's what I want to do, here's how I'm going to do it, and then they don't do that, then essentially the why either wasn't clear or strong enough, or something else was actually more important.
There's a couple reasons that people don't follow through. And the first one is procrastination. People think we procrastinate because we're lazy or because of whatever. Procrastination can also be that we don't have enough information, so we're not ready to act. So we can look at procrastination as a negative, that, oh my God, I'm procrastinating. But if we don't have enough information, we're not effective to actually act and move that thing forward. And the other piece is commitment. If we are not committed, we're not committed. So we will say, I want to get to the gym. But if we are not actually committed to get our shoes on and get out the door, it's never going to happen. So the goal that we've set to go to the gym is a goal that we've set out of some other convention, not because we're actually committed to it. We think we should. Someone told us it would be good. Our mom said we should go to the gym. Like, whatever the reason is, we're adopting that goal of going to the gym for the wrong reasons, because we are not personally committed to actually following through with it.
Great advice.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Be themselves. Just be themselves. Figure out who it is you are. What makes you unique is that inherent quality you were born with, and just be more of that. You don't need to measure up or try to compete with anyone. Just be yourself. Yeah.
I think that seems to come through as a really strong theme with most of the guests that we interview. But you've clearly shared quite a lot of stories with us that really illustrate that well. So I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for getting us through the buzz, Ciel.
The buzz. Yeah.
Now, so you've talked about the books you've got in the works. What else is on the future horizon for your business?
Well, I will be moving from my current home to a new location, which is my ocean view, unobstructed view, and that will be happening shortly. Wow. And my business, I'll be moving into offering private retreats for people to come to my beautiful ocean view home and dive into this writing process. So there will be an online component and then an in-person intensive retreat. There'll be week-long and weekend, 2 different formats, retreats where we will go into nature in our community and use the journal as a tool to get more clear about who we inherently are in the world and how do we be ourselves, right? And what that looks like for our business and our personal life.
No, that sounds really exciting. So whereabouts are you moving to?
In White Rock, in the same community that I live in.
Okay, that is on the coast, is it?
It is, yeah. We're about 3 minutes from the border with the U.S., with Washington State, and we're about 8 blocks currently from the ocean. So it's we get the beautiful ocean breezes coming off the water, and yeah, it's stunning.
Well, I mean, I've just come back from San Francisco. I didn't get that far north, but I'll certainly, next trip we do, I'll be planning a trip north because I believe it's a beautiful part of the world.
Oh my God, it's spectacular. And when you are in this neck of the woods, please give us a call. Carol, myself, Sheila Sutherland, some of your other guests are in this area, and it would be a lovely reunion to meet you in person and show you some of the sights of this beautiful area.
Great. Well, we'll definitely put that on the plan.
Sounds great.
All right then. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to any business owner who wants to be a leader in innovation and in productivity?
Know why you're doing what you're doing. Simon Sinek talks about this, that many businesses know what they do and how they do it, but they don't often know why they do it. And there is an underlying passion that comes through the work that you do in the world. And knowing what that why is going to help you be a leader, help you stand out, and help you innovate in the business that you do bring to your community.
Yeah.
So figure out what that why is. Why are you interested in doing what you do?
That's great advice. And one of the first questions I actually ask normally in the podcast interview is, what do you do and why do you do what you do and why? But, you kind of answered that before I had a chance to ask it. And I think, your advice about knowing why you do what you do and being authentic to that, you're really living proof of that.
There is no comparison. When we are authentically ourselves, there's no one to compete with because we are so unique. But we sort of forget that piece of who we are. We want to, be a part of the group and fit in with the crowd. And I learned, not that long ago that I am not meant to be ground cover. I am meant to be standing out in the field. Right? So why do we keep trying to blend in and be a part of the group when really we are meant to stand out, to shine in all of our individual glory? So
I love that analogy. Yeah, I'm not part of the ground cover.
I'm not.
Well, thanks, Ciel. This has been really great. Now, where can people reach out and say thank you for all that you've shared with us?
They can reach out. There's a number of places. Facebook, for sure. Ciel Ellis. I'm sure my name will be associated with the podcast, so you'll get the spelling of that. The other is the Ellis Institute is my website. You can certainly contact me there. And that would be the two most convenient places where I spend a lot of my time.
All right. And we'll definitely have links to those in the show notes for the episode. So thanks so much
Thank you so much, Jürgen.
Sharing your time and insights with us today. I've really enjoyed this. And it's been quite an inspirational story that you've shared. Now, before we finish up, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast and why?
Hillary Schneider is someone that comes to mind right away. Now, Hillary owns an 80-acre ranch just north of Kamloops. And one of the whys of her business is that she brings in horses who are SPCA rescues. These are horses who have been abandoned, neglected, abused. And she brings them into her herd and gives them a new job. And that job is to facilitate the coaching and healing of the clients that Hillary brings into the field. Now, currently, I believe her herd is at 25 or 26 horses. And all of these horses have a history and they have a particular medicine. They have a hierarchy in the herd and they have a gift. So when someone enters the field and their intention is to gain clarity on what is their leadership, what is their gift to bring to the world, Hillary pays very close attention to which horse responds to that intention. And through many years and months of doing this work with the same herd, she can determine what the medicine of that horse is. Is it courage? Is it faith? Is it being the wounded healer? Right? Having trust that your wounds are actually where you are to lead from. That's just one little slice. The synchronicities that happen in that field. I've been a client of Hillary's on a number of occasions, so I know from personal experience the things that happen you could not choreograph.
Sounds fascinating.
These horses respond to you in ways that you could not imagine that are absolutely perfect.
Sounds fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So Hilary, look out for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Ciel Ellis.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Thanks again, Ciel. I really enjoyed this today, and wish you all the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Jürgen.
I really hope you enjoyed meeting Ciel and hearing both her compelling story and the great advice she shared with us. There are so many gems in this interview, starting from her personal journey to Scott's story to the tips about journaling, simplification and self-awareness. I'd love to know what you took away from Ciel's interview. Just leave a comment below the blog post, which you can find at innovabiz.co/Ciel Ellis. That is CIELELLIS. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Ciel Ellis. You'll also find information for getting in touch with Ciel there. Ciel suggested that I interview Hilary Schneider of the Epona Rise Retreat Centre on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So Hilary, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Ciel Ellis. Stay connected. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you make sure you'll never miss another episode. We'd also love you to leave us a review because what you think matters. Take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic LinkedIn community at the Transformational Marketing Academy. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMAC. It's free to join. Hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.